Last time, I showcased my main character model for my Unreal game project. Since then, for about a month and a half, I've been focusing on rigging it. In the past, I would have typically built this from scratch, but this time, decided to save time by using Rigify, a Blender add-on that lets you create a robust rig in a fraction of the time. I originally thought it would take about a week to get the base body rig up and running. However, a standard Rigify skeleton doesn't fully address all the tricky deformation issues that pop up along the joints, such as the elbow, knee, wrist, armpit, and pelvis. To tackle these problematic areas, I added extra bones with constraints to improve deformation and the overall movement. Before diving into my adjustments, let's take a look at what a standard Rigify skeleton offers. For the torso, Rigify provides controls for the shoulders, upper body, hip sway, and a main control that shifts the entire body at the pelvis. When moving this control, the knees bend and the hands stay in place. This is due to the skeleton's IK setup for the limbs, which makes positioning a lot more intuitive. Rigify's limbs also include multiple twist bones for more natural deformations, as well as a stretch option that lets you go full Mr. Fantastic. Even better is the ability to switch between IK and FK. IK, inverse kinematics, uses a hand target and a pole target which determines the direction of the elbow. Think of it like holding a doll's hand, moving it around and pinning it in place. FK, forward kinematics, on the other hand, is the standard setup. This is like positioning an action figure by rotating each segment individually. Having access to both IK and FK is incredibly useful. For most animations, IK is easier to manage, but when you want a limb to inherit movement from its parent, like a twist in the torso, FK becomes an invaluable option, often requiring much less micro adjustments to create a smooth motion. Rigify also provides some additional handy controls, such as a foot roll, which is perfect for walk cycles. There are also intuitive finger controls that automatically curl when scaled, for quick and easy posing. The base setup works well for most cases, but as mentioned earlier, it doesn't fully solve joint deformation issues. These often require hours of careful weight painting to get somewhat acceptable results. Weight painting is the process of assigning how much influence each bone has over the vertices of a mesh. This is visualized as a heat map, with red representing 100% influence and blue near zero. Anyone who has done it before knows it can be an incredibly tedious and frustrating process at times. To save myself the headache, I added extra bones with transformation constraints at every joint to correct problems like concaving, bulging, and unwanted creasing. Hinge joints like the knee, elbow, and ankle are relatively straightforward because of their limited range of motion. Take the knee for example. I added a deformed bone parented to the upper thigh that tracks the rotation of the shin. As the calf approaches the underside of the thigh, this bone eases back, pulling the front of the knee inward and the back outward. With the right weight balance, this produces a cleaner crease and prevents the knee from bending unnaturally. The same logic applies to the elbow. The ankle, however, is slightly different. Here I use a child-of constraint to inherit 50% of the foot's rotation, along with two transformation constraints, one that shifts it similar to the knee and elbow, and another that adds a little extra rotation. The wrist is similar, is parented to the forearm and inherits rotation from the hand. As the wrist flexes, the bone slides backwards along the forearm for both upward and downward motion, which requires two transformation constraints. All of these constraint setups could be achieved through the use of drivers, but I prefer using constraints because they're easier to copy over to the other side of the rig by simply hitting symmetrize. The hip and shoulder joints are more complex because they are ball joints with a greater range of motion: up, down, forward, back, and twist. To handle this, the armpit bone is parented to the shoulder and inherits 75% of the upper arm's X rotation and 50% of the Y and Z. A transformation constraint then shifts the bone vertically when raising and lowering the arms, while compensating forward and back movement as well. I ran into a lot of glitches with this setup, especially when accounting for the arm's twist. The issues are caused by the way Euler angles work, and to solve it, it was just a case of swapping the rotation mode to swing and Y twist. Despite the simplicity of the fix, figuring it out took a while, making the armpit bone the most frustrating one to set up, even more than the pelvis, which is far more complicated. For this joint, I added 5 extra bones. Let's focus on the ones at the front and side for now. One slides down the thigh when the leg is lifted, pulling the mesh away from the hips to reduce concaving and clipping at the crease. The other, positioned at the side of the hip, handles sideways movement. Even in extreme poses, like doing the splits, this helps the mesh retain its shape without noticeable indentations. In the past, I would have solved this issue with a driver and a shape key setup, which works well. However, I wanted to keep my shape keys clean for clothing specific morphs and for facial animation. This brings us to the 3 bones at the back, side. Yes, it's time to talk about the biggest, most important muscles in the human body, the glutes. The lower bone specifically highlights the lower crease. It's parented to the thigh with no constraints, acting as an anchor for the other 2 bones, which are parented to the hip. These 2 inherit a percentage of the lower crease bone's location and rotation, with the top one inheriting less than the lower. This setup creates an arcing motion when the knee is raised and a compressing motion when the leg moves backwards. I also added a transformation constraint that pushes these bones outward during contraction. This helps the glutes maintain their shape and creates a clean crease, avoiding the common shrinking and concaving effect you get from a standard bone setup. These bones also open the door to physics, and alongside them I added another 2, one for the thigh and one for the belly. While subtle, this motion helps animations feel less rigid, which is especially important when animating by hand without motion capture. This brings me to the breast setup, which I adapted from 2AM's video where he examined Evelyn's model from Zenless Zone Zero. Known as the Battle Cruiser due to its structure, it includes the 2 bones of a basic setup but with a parent and 2 extra which stabilize the top and side to maintain shape, reducing squashing and sagging that a standard setup produces. For a full breakdown of this setup, I highly recommend 2AM's video. For the hair, I created a separate rig. It includes copies of the neck and head bones with constraints to attach it to the main rig. I did it this way so I can swap out hairstyles with different rigs while keeping the base skeleton free of all the extra bones. This setup itself is fairly straightforward, just bones following the strands. The ponytail has a main chain with a few extra bones to add a little extra movement to the longer strands. I'll likely add more since having only a couple move draws attention to the ones that don't. I won't do it for every strand, just the ones that stand out the most. So far, this represents the first couple of weeks of progress. By this point, the underclothing, body and hair were fully rigged and weight painted. Over the following 2 weeks, I focused on clothing, which turned out to be quite the challenge. I'll cover that alongside the walking animation in the next video, to keep this one short and sweet. Let me know what you think of the setup so far. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and consider checking out my Patreon, where I post weekly updates including short videos and screenshots of my progress. The link can be found in the description. And if you want to do none of that, would you kindly bugger off?